Hello everybody and welcome to World Talks. We're at the Warsaw Security Forum 2025 and we're talking about cyber defense right now, and I'm joined by Dariusz Standerski, the Secretary of State at the Ministry of Digital Affairs. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, now establishing digital and cyber resilience in light of rising tensions, hybrid warfare and potential conflict, that's your job. Tell me, just how difficult is it to accomplish, and what are you guys working on right now?
Of course, it is difficult, but we're working together because to prevent disinformation and to secure our infosphere, it's not only within the Ministry of Digital Affairs, but to be honest, is within our every minister's portfolio, especially including our defense ministry, because we are working together, hand by hand, civilian and military services, to prevent our cybersecurity sphere from attacks and to prevent this info from spreading. And we see two fundamental layers of this challenge. First challenge is to how to make the free access to our public services. That's why we've spent over the last several months about additional billion euros to invest in cybersecurity infrastructure into our local governments, into our water supply systems and our central offices. And that's because we see that the threat is growing. For example, a couple of weeks ago, we had an attempt to breach our water supply system in one of the largest Polish cities. We defended it, but we need to be prepared. That's why we spent a lot of money to secure our infrastructure there, because when you have this fundamental layer secured, then you can go also to the layer of disinformation, because we need to prevent especially illegal content in the internet from spreading on the one hand, and on the second hand, we need to also balance it with the freedom of speech, which is so important in the internet as well.
Right, well, let's talk about that. We had this incident, of course, when the drones came in. We had lots of instances of disinformation, misinformation available online. What is currently the procedure to handle this? And a lot of it appears on social media. So how does the Polish government intend to fight this disinformation, and what does that look like? Because you mentioned the dilemma with the freedom of speech.
Yeah, so first of all, our services are in daily touch with the platforms, with social media platforms, so we can share info about possible threats in the infosphere. However, it's not enough, because when we saw that the first wave of disinformation on September the 10th during the drones attack started already during this drone attack. The first messages of disinformation were in the Polish infosphere even before the last drone went into Polish airspace. And this wave lasted for 6 hours. And after those 6 hours, we were preparing for the second wave, because that's also the methodology of disinformation. There are always 2 or 3 waves of disinformation. They want to test different narrative lines, and that's why we were prepared for this second one, starting from 9 a.m. The next day, because we started to post their narratives. We described this information on our governmental websites, and we started to spread it, to name it, and to pick what is this information and what's the real info.
That's a great tactic, but I clearly remember this time,
yeah.
and I'd just like to say that I learned about this from Ukrainians who called me in the middle of the night and said, "What's going on? Are you guys under attack?" The Russian Telegram channels were saying that they were actually attacking Jasionka airport, where all the weapons come in for Ukraine, and other sites across Poland, and that this was a directed attack. Meanwhile, as a journalist, I was also asked, what is going on? What can you verify? And in our Polish information sphere, our official information sphere, there was nothing.
Yeah.
So is this maybe one way to correct misinformation is to immediately get out the correct information?
Yeah, we need to remember that this disinformation wave in Polish infosphere sources from the Ukrainian infosphere, because Russian disinformation disinformation tactics were active in Ukraine hours before first drones went to the Polish airspace. And the first disinform messages in the Polish infosphere were quite similar to the same disinformation active in Ukraine couple of hours before. And that's why Polish wave of disinformation was just the continuation of this action made by Russians in Ukraine a couple of hours before. That's why this information intercepted so quickly, because that was merely a continuation.
It was the first bit of information, actually, in the information sphere.
Yeah, because from the point of disinformation services from the Russian Federation, attack on Ukraine and attack on Poland merged together in this very night. That's why that was so quick and so plausible to get into Polish infosphere, because, for example, they were copying graphics from Ukrainian infosphere to Polish infosphere. They had the same content at the first time, only translating automatically messages. So that's why it was so quick. And from this night, our defense started to inform. A couple of hours later, text messages went to our phones. That's of course too late. That's of course a challenge that we have because of the GSM technology as well. Because of this technology, you cannot send 50 million text messages at the 1 second.
Right.
And that's also a challenge we need to cope with. And we are working with our internal ministry together, for example, to develop our mObywatel app also in this matter, to have notifications even faster than before.
So in terms of, I guess when you look back, in terms of looking at this attack, were you able to learn a lot of lessons from this incident and how to better respond next time?
Of course, because we see that this race is never over. This race never ends, and we need to be prepared better and better every incident we observe. We've gathered a lot of data from this drones disinformation incident, and we are prepared better, but we are working to have more streams of information and of naming disinformation that we see on our infosphere.
Well, I'm sure this won't be the last time. Dariusz Standerski, the Secretary of State for the Ministry of Digital Affairs, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And that's all the time we have in this edition of World Talks. Thank you for watching, and stay with us for more here on TVP World.